how you go about preparing your core for any sort of exercise you're about to undertake. Now, in the literature, there's two modes of sort of core preparation that have been used or are discussed around being able to do leading up to doing some form of exercise. The first one's what's known as abdominal hollowing. Now, this is a bit of an outdated technique, and it was actually quite popular with bodybuilders a couple of generations ago. It was really just a form of sucking your stomach in as far as you can, obviously not as much as shown in this image here, but it was about contracting your stomach, sucking it inwards, and that, they believed, helped in preparation for core stability. Recent research kind of shows now that it destabilises the lumbar spine, is not particularly useful exercise. The second technique is that of what's called abdominal bracing, and that's what I want to spend the time on today. So abdominal bracing is aimed at trying to increase what's known as intra-abdominal pressure. Now, this is an absolutely key principle and technique and strength that you need to develop through your core if you want to get a really highly functional core with any activity that you wish to do. So what is intra-abdominal pressure? So imagine your core really is a cylinder and it's surrounded by a whole bunch of muscles. Now, if you're able to contract those muscles extremely hard and compress the space inside your torso, your core, the more you press in, the more pressure is pushed out, and that generates a high level of pressure and stability through that particular region. Now, an example I like to use is to use the good old-fashioned party balloon. Now, if we look at this end of the party balloon and we imagine that you've got really poor core stability and in particular intra-abdominal pressure, that's a bit like having this part of the balloon here where it's just unable to provide any level of support and it gives way and it bends really easy and it's just rubbish. That's what happens if your core is not particularly strong. You just have no level of support. But if we look at this end of the balloon, which has now got a high level of pressure inside, you see it's now actually quite stiff and fully able to support itself. This is the equivalent of what's going on in the actual torso. So we want to develop intra-abdominal pressure using the abdominal bracing technique. So what does that look like? So I find one of the easiest ways of teaching abdominal bracing is to do it from a kneeling position. So what you want to do, the key muscle that's involved in abdominal bracing is the external obliques. You will also get your transverse abdominis switched on, but the external oblique is the easiest one for you to be able to feel that you're doing things right. So how I get people to do this exercise is I get them to put their hands on their external obliques, which are their side abdominal muscles. What I then have them do is I then have them try and contract their abdominals with the goal of trying to slowly bring your belly button towards your spine. So you're not sucking in towards your spine, you're trying to contract in and try and sort of force your belly button towards your spine is the contraction you need. Now, if you do that well, two things will happen. One is you will start to feel your core start to flatten out. Two, you'll also feel your external obliques will start to activate and you'll actually feel the muscles on the side here start to go hard. Now, if you can't do that, and I have a number of clients that just when we started had no idea how about going to switch their obliques on and create this abdominal bracing technique, get them to cough. And what that does is your external obliques and internal obliques are actively involved in the process of coughing. And so that will actually have them being able to go, that's what my oblique being switched on feels like. You then obviously want to get them to the point where they are able to create an abdominal brace, switch their obliques on, and not have to go through the coughing process. The other thing I would suggest in terms of teaching people the best way of developing intra-abdominal pressure through your abdominal bracing is also to get your clients to hold their breath in the early stages. Now, why is that important? If I take a breath in, I force my diaphragm down, and it's just another pressure that helps to increase the intra-abdominal pressure through this torso region. So you take a breath in, then you do your abdominal brace. That's a way of being able to maximise intra-abdominal pressure through your torso, which is the key to developing high levels of stability when you're about to do some sort of activity such as lifting an external load, bending over, or placing some sort of load that potentially could put your lumbar spine at risk. So again, in summary, what you want to try and do is you want to try and learn how to abdominally brace through your core. You want to make sure you switch on your external obliques in particular, and you do that by putting your hand on there and making sure that those muscles go hard as you're creating that tension and pressure through your mid-torso prior to going and doing some particular activity. So to summarise how you go about abdominal bracing, follow these steps. Either start in a standing upright position or as demonstrated previously on your knees. Breathe in and lift your chest or rib cage up, get you in a good posture position. Contract your abdominals so that your belly button starts moving towards your spine. Now at the same time, your side or oblique muscles should start to move outwards or sideways and should start feeling hard. As you contract your abs, don't let your chest drop, and also it may be useful in helping squeezing your glutes or your backside whilst you're performing this exercise. I also just suggest in the early stages just to really feel a high quality abdominal brace to take a breath in, and that will help increase your intra-abdominal pressure and will allow you to really feel firm through this particular region.